Hello everyone and welcome back to your favourite sports show. No, it's not Match of the Day because that's a knockoff of ours. So welcome back to Planet Sport. It's the first episode in person today. I've got Matt to my right and I've got Sam to my left. A lot more high definition than the Zoom calls. But we're still talking about similar sort of topics. We're still going to have the same banter. Hopefully no one will be bullied. And we'll live our lives as though this never happened. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about football, basketball, that sort of thing. Mainly football because, you know, I mean, that's sort of been the most sort of biggest topic of conversation. But first of all, before we start the episode, I want to say a big thank you to the University of Salford and Live at the Quays for making this happen. You can go and check Live at the Quays down on Instagram. They've had a big boost in followers. Fun little fact, when I first started following them, they had 66 followers, and within that time period from, I think it was about June to now, they're now on 164 or 66. So it's a good bit of growth, that. Pretty decent bit of growth, and we're just going to continue growing. We'll be at 1,000 next year. So, first of all, Sam, if you want to talk a little bit about a little interview we did, something a little bit...
Yeah, on today's show we had the Manchester Giants head coach Danny Byrne to talk all things basketball and BBL. Now, we will also be rounding up this week's sporting highlights, as well as reading the best sporting meme tweets and discussing all of the biggest topics in world football. That's this episode of Planet Sport.
Yeah. So I mean, the mean tweets is going to be it's going to be interesting. Is it PG? Is it PG clean? We're getting a few nods and a few nods and a few shakes heads. So we'll have to wait and see. YouTube, don't come for us, please. This is kind of like a temporary studio. I just look directly into the light and now I actually can't see. But we are going to be we are going to be moving into a nice studio once COVID goes away, and this new vaccine, 96% effective one in America. Allegedly. So
we've only got 5 million of those. The 90% we've got 40 million of those.
So I'll get the feeling this is going to be like the space race, you know.
The American one was made by Dolly Parton.
Part funded by her research fund. There you go. He looks absolutely blown away by that.
It's definitely not working then. Right, so let's move on to the first sporting topic, aside from Dolly Parton's scientific genius. We're going to be talking about the Nations League because it's probably, it is like the most topical thing at the moment in sport, is that England, what's going on with England? What a mess. I mean, we played Ireland in a friendly, which no one cared about, and Jack Grealish absolutely, bullied his old nation after he deferred to England. So I'm sure the Irish fans will be happy about that. But he is from Birmingham, so up the West Midlands. And then, of course, after that amazing result against what is a very average team, we came into the game against Belgium. A few people were thinking, can we win? The obvious answer was no. Probably should have known that from the start, to be honest. The line-up, that was the big one, wasn't it? The line-up, Declan Rice and Jordan Henderson in midfield. That's like having chicken, brown rice and butter for dinner. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just so bland. Like, there's no creativity there whatsoever. Do you know what I mean?
That's quite a good analogy.
I shouldn't have put it any better. So, Tom.
It's bland though, isn't it? If you think about it, in all seriousness, if you think about the squad that we have, my issue with England has always been we always somehow manage to screw up the managerial appointments. So we had Roy Hodgson, who, he's a good manager. He's done an okay job at Crystal Palace, apart from putting Zaha at CDM. But obviously for England, he wasn't very good. And then now we've had Southgate, who, was it an MBE that he got given?
Yeah, I think so.
For beating Panama and Tunisia in extra time. I mean, come on. But anyway, let's not. So he gets us to a semi-final. Everyone's like, "Oh wow, it's a new era for English football." The usual stuff. And ever since then, really, we got to the Nations League final as well, and then obviously we lost. So yeah, a bit of a strange one. It was the semi-finals that we got to, so not the final. Portugal won the final. I mean, what do we think's gone wrong at the moment? Because the Belgian game was a big eye opener. Are we just not that good, or is it a managerial issue? Is it a tactical issue? Is there something that needs to change in terms of getting in someone who's got a bit more managerial nous about them? Matt, I'll start with you because you're looking at me nice.
So it's a difficult question to answer. I mean, I can't say I have the exact knowledge of what's going wrong with England because, you know, I'm sure there's many people, many old men on Twitter who think they know what's going wrong with England. But I am not personally one of them. However, there is a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of factors going into this. It's a different season to many. It's a busy season for a lot of the players. I mean, obviously we had the controversy with, was it Mason Greenwood having some issues.
And Phil Foden as well,
Phil Foden in Iceland, which isn't going to help with team morale and, you know, the kind of the feeling within the team. So I think it's a less than ideal situation for them, and, you know, the preparation of the busy sort of football schedule from the restart in September is not going to have helped. But yeah, again, we should be better than what we have been, and, you know, it's one of those things where hopefully someone is going to look at this now and think this is what we need to change. And, you know, they've experimented around with a lot of different things, you know, in the way that they play, and, you know, starting with that particularly poor lineup in that last match. It's just, you know, it could be a building block. It could be that they're aiming for, you know, they're like in this Manchester Giants interview that we have mentioned. He said he's building for something. Now this could be this England team could be being built for something. It might not be ready right now, but we could be progressing into a better
We've been
phase.
saying that for a few years, though. I think that's my issue. It's like we keep saying, you know, we're building for the future, but what actually are we building? Because when you're building, you have to see that you're actually going to work towards somewhere. At the moment, I can't see England actually moving towards anything in particular.
The issue is England have always had a formation they're going to play, and Southgate has the same thing. Hodgson had the same thing. McLaren had it. You know, they've all had it the past 20 years where they've gone, right, this is the system, this is what the player's going to play it. Southgate's got two of them. World Cup, we played the three at the back. More recently, the four at the back in between. Now we're back in the three. And that's fine because they're not turning up very often. They at least know what they come into. But you properly shepherd yourself into, okay, we're going to play this back three. So many centre-backs need calling up to fit into a back three. He's calling up 6 right-backs and putting 2 of them in the, you know, out of position, Trippier playing on the left and Walker in the back three. I mean, it almost feels like when he calls up this squad, he always takes more than he needs so he can have a look at different players. But it feels like it's different from the World Cup where he left people to go and grow in the 21s. I mean, he brought up Jude Bellingham for some minutes this time, but it seemed needless. He's 17, he's not going to be in the senior squad for ages, yeah. Leave him down there, let him play that stuff.
He has been doing well for Dortmund, to be fair.
Yeah, but they've already got so many midfielders. You need to be keeping the ones who are actually going to go to the tournament next summer.
Yeah, I would take that. I think the issue is that there is a distinct lack of creativity. This whole Mason Mount, Jack Grealish debate, you know, as we talk about, you know, if you're having chicken and brown rice, you want to have a bit of like thyme in there, or, you know, a bit of spice. Right, we don't have that. We just
Who's the thyme and who's the spice?
Well, I mean, Jack Grealish is both, really. I think Mason Mount is like...
He's the butter from his
he adds something, but after a while you're kind of like, actually, what is this adding to my meal? Do you know what I mean? Or he's a little bit like the you know, the kid in PE that the teacher really likes, and he's just like, oh, you just don't understand, you know, what he does. But look, Grealish has said himself, if you don't know how good Mount is, then you don't understand football. I probably don't. He's a professional footballer. I'm just sitting here talking about it. You know, what was I doing? What was he doing at 19? He was playing professional football. So, but is it a case of playing them both in the same team? I mean, he tried that against Belgium, but it was in a front three with Kane and Grealish and Mount either side. I mean, we have seen Grealish play on the left side for Villa, but he's more of an inverted left winger. I guess the question is, like, how do you fit the players into the system?
For me, Grealish is the person that you build that midfield around. You don't keep him on the wings because we have too many good wingers already. We have Sterling, Sancho, Rashford, all these players who can play on the wings. Shifting Grealish over there just gives Southgate the easy out of, well, I'm going to play him left wing. Oh, sorry, can't. He's got to be in the middle. That's where his talents are, is finding the gaps. Yeah, he'll float over to the left, cut inside, sometimes float to the right. But that's his position, is right in the centre, heart of the midfield. Realistically, I think that means changing from a 3 to a 4 at the back. Because I don't think we have the centre-backs for it. We've got Cody and Maguire, who are both very good middle centre-backs in a back 3. But do you look at that defence and go, right, we have to build it around one of those two? Or do you sacrifice one of them for a more fluid formation going forward?
Yeah, that is the thing. Obviously, when Gareth Southgate changed to a 5 at the back, or said he was going to play 5 at the back, I think a lot of Wolves fans knew that Cody was pretty much dead set on to play, which for us is obviously brilliant because we have an England international in the side. But the problem is, I think, Matt, we'll come on to you for this one. I think the 5 at the back does hinder England at the same time. When we play the players that we have in that formation, I think it hinders us going forward. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's always the case. If you put more people at the back, you are going to potentially...
Well, the full-backs that we have aren't maybe... sometimes they don't get up as much. Something doesn't quite click, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's something they've got to... I mean, they've had however many, 2 years now to play around with this formation and find that sweet spot with the squad that they've got for what would have been Euros 2020. We would have hoped to have seen in this time when, sort of after that, when it was kind of a big goal to be performing a little bit better than we have. And we just haven't really found that sweet spot of that. Certain nations find that playing style that works really well for them, and I just don't think we've got that at the moment.
Do you think, and Sam's touched on this as well, do you think we almost just have too many players that are coming through? If you look at the amount of right backs we have enough right backs to actually make a starting 11. And obviously the question is, which ones do you go for? Because they're all seen as promising players. And we have a lot of those promising players at the moment, as we see. But the question is trying to actually whittle down a squad. And I think that's the biggest problem that Southgate has had, is that he can't whittle down a squad of 20 players, let's say, that he will stick with to fit into a system. Now the problem is that switch to a back 4, Connor Cody, then I don't think you would call him up, because I don't think he can play in a back 4. He's been playing in a back 3 for a few years. I think he is very much a system player. A bit like Matt Doherty, we've seen that him going to Spurs now, he is struggling as a right back, whereas as a right wing back in the Wolves system, he flourished. So it really does depend on the system. And I think it also depends on how Gareth Southgate uses the players that he has. There's no doubt that the best managers will get the best out of not only the maybe more average players, but the best players. And at the moment, Kane looks nowhere near as good under Southgate as he does under Mourinho.
It is tricky. I think that when we talk about the number of right backs we've got, you can see, even if we take and start at 4 at the back, you could see him taking 4 next summer. 2 to play right back, Kyle Walker to shift into the centre if he needs him, and then one of them to cover for probably Ben Chilwell at left back next summer. We don't really have enough left backs, so sort of shifting someone across covers it. But for me, Southgate built himself when he took the job as this, I'll be a system manager, I'll bring through the youth players, we'll find an identity. And that was the 3 at the back. And after getting to the semi-finals, he looked at who we had and went, right, we're going to change it, we're going to be attacking. And in that, it was the qualifiers for the Euros. He played a 4 at the back, Sancho, Sterling, Rashford, Kane, were all used in that front 3.
Yeah.
And now he's just gone, I want to keep a front 3, but I also want to have 3 at the back. And he's just
he doesn't trust his defenders. He looks like a manager that can't trust his centre-backs to play as a back 2.
I know he's playing there for Tottenham now, but Eric Dyer isn't a centre-back.
No.
Never was.
Neither's Kyle Walker, though, in fairness.
No, but you're looking at a England team where there's enough centre-backs to make a back 3 out of centre-backs. Even if that means playing someone like Tyrone Mings at left-sided centre-back. He's left-footed, it makes sense.
He's looked good this season, Mings.
Yeah, instead, he played him against Belgium, obviously, but instead he'd rather go with Maguire, Walker, and well, he can't anymore, but he would have gone with Joe Gomez. You know, he'd have gone with someone fast to
Yeah.
the other side of Maguire. But for me, maybe he's looking at this as friendlies, getting the results against Iceland, and then looking at the rest of the games against Belgium and Denmark is sort of can we
I mean, it's an issue that we've spoken about before on one of the earlier episodes. We were speaking more in terms of the midfield at this point, and we're speaking about that we've got so many players. Which players are you going to play, and who are you going to play where? Especially with our wingers, we've got people who can play everywhere and in the centre. And we were saying, we've got to pick something and kind of go with it for a bit, and then maybe reassess in a couple of months' time, or 6 months, a year time, and see where, if there's a new approach, let these guys play together, kind of get something going, and then potentially move it around if it's not working. Yeah, so quickly before we move on then, Nations League, yes or no? Do we think it's a good thing? I mean, everyone, I've never met people that enjoy international breaks that much, but do we think we should? Is it okay? Arsene Wenger sort of said it was pointless a couple of months ago. I mean,
I'll put the weird slant at yes, but they should have looked at it. What is coming up with this calendar? Obviously, in the summer they should have gone right. Let's not put it in because it was a new start. They were changing it up.
Push it back. I think.
Let's push it back a year because now next year, 2021, you're looking at they've got to fit in the Euros, the finals for the Nations League in the same summer. Then start World Cup qualifying again, and they're still going to have these stupid international
Euros, all that, Champions League. I mean, I've mentioned it before as well. From the restart, there's only three midweeks until the end of the year. Three free midweeks till the end of the year, which is absolutely crazy. That is a bizarre schedule for the amount of football that has to be played in that time, in international, in FA Cup, in Champions League, in Premier League. Everything like that is hectic, and I feel as if that's going to impact into the new year with injuries, with kind of, you often see squads just slump and just not have that performance in the second half, and I think that is going to be really crucial for some of those bigger teams who have so many players on international duty and also players who are playing in Champions League and stuff. And you might see smaller teams, the likes of Leeds United, Sheffield United, who've got less players in those positions, who might do well in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think that's probably why the league's been so competitive as well this season. But let's move on then, because we've got some other things to get through now. Obviously, it's been a bit of a rough year. I think we can all agree, can't we? We're getting some nods. It's finally here. We're in the final stretch now in November, and genuinely feels like I've lost a year of my life. It's just gone. But of course, there's always things to cheer us up, and there's nothing better to cheer us up than football and sports. Funny moments in sport. A dog runs onto the pitch, and everyone's trying to chase him, or a cat, or a naked man. Do you know what I mean? Or someone.
Speak for yourself.
Well, it happened at the World Cup. A few beers down you. You tend to lose your bearings. Yeah. So, Matt, you've got this little segment, Sports Funnies.
So we've been digging through the internet to find the most hilarious moments from the world of sports. We have 10 here today, but if you'd like to see this again, do tweet us or send us a DM on Instagram @live@thekeys, and you can be included in the next edition of Sports Funnies. So starting off, now we've all been there. We all go for that handshake or high five in celebration, and we get left hanging and feeling a little bit stupid. Let's play this one. Look at this. Oh dear me. I love it when people try and play it off like it's nothing, like they've not actually gone for that high five. And as we can see here, he realises the gig's up and he gets his hands in the air.
I feel like that's what Adam Johnson tried to do when he told other prisoners what he did.
Oh my God, he's gone there.
And he was just like, "Come on, guys, whoa!" And then the other guys are just like, "Nah, sorry, mate."
Well, I guess I'm going to have to move on from that. I'm just not really going to acknowledge it. Now, we shouldn't laugh at this next one, but I'm just going to let this one play.
I mean, you can sort of imagine what's going to happen here. Oh no. I don't want to know this.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Sorry.
Extraordinary attempts from.
It's the Warwick Davis comment just killed me.
He got no ball.
It's a fantastic effort. He gets himself right up there, gets his foot there, he just misses the ball, and just ends up on the floor in a heap.
Do you know what? He's probably he's probably an inch away from being Ronaldo against Juventus. So I rate the technique.
Yeah,
but
he gets there. He just misses slightly.
It's a good technique though. Look at the little like. What? I tell you what.
The tongue was out as well. You can tell he was
Full effort
tired.
face that.
Oh, they put that on a Nike advert.
Now, you're normally used to seeing Roy Hodgson at the side of a football pitch, but we've got to let this next one play. Here he is at the Great Manchester Run.
Is that actually Roy Hodgson?
It is. And he's going for high fives. He's messed it up. And again, we see this, people going for the high fives.
They've baited him as well. Imagine going home and saying that you baited Roy Hodgson into a high five.
Oh dear. So we've got the next
official
clip. Let's just play this one on. Now, you're normally used to seeing, in a basketball match, basketball referees running up and down the pitch. And he just can't do it. And he goes down with that.
That's what happens like when you slide tackle someone on FIFA and they just like sort of just collapse. Do you know what I mean? Hang on, look at the second cut there. He's been shot.
He wanted so much attention, no one came round to him.
And everyone just carries on as normal and.
Now, do you know what? He's just checked his Tinder and he's been like, some girl has just put OK to his opener. on the second cut, he's just checked it and he's just
been shot in the heart with that.
He's just
one.
lost it. Look at him, mate. He's heartbroken. Poor fella. It happens to us all, mate. Don't worry.
Now, tell me what you think of this next clip. After this team missed his penalty, his final penalty of the penalty shootout.
Oh,
mate!
mate.
Remove his shirt and reveal.
That is unreal. Man
t-shirt
City
underneath.
fans eat your heart out.
Unbelievable.
Mate, I
Would
swear.
you ever do that, Tom?
No.
No?
No.
You might have to soon.
Yeah,
Stay in your team.
The Etihad would know about it though, wouldn't they?
Second in the league.
I mean, yeah, I'm wearing my shirt today. I was led to believe that
Newcastle.
Would be, but unfortunately,
I forgot.
no shows.
I did actually forget.
Don't know.
I've got some new tops on the way.
Now
though.
we finished this section with the most fabulous referee that has ever graced the football pitch. I'll let you imagine.
Oh, what a classic.
Take a look at this.
What a classic. What a class. Is he running backwards? Oh, mate, the people with like, you just know like people on Twitter with like poppies as their profile picture are raging at that.
I swear he refereed me in a game about 10 years ago. I'm telling you, there's more than one of him.
He's running backwards there. I'm really confused about that one. How's he doing that? He's having a cat fight there. There, I don't know what he's doing. Do you know what? This is what Mike Dean thinks he is.
That's what he wants to be.
This is what Mike Dean wants to be.
Anyway, that pretty much concludes this segment. If you would like to see it again or you've got any ideas of funny clips, do send them to us on Twitter or on Instagram DMs at @live@the-Keys.
Now, obviously, Manchester Giants video was delayed because of lockdown, so cheers for that, Boris. But we were lucky enough to sit down with the head coach, Danny Byrne, ask him a few really interesting questions, get into his footballing background a little bit. So you can take a look at a small clip that we've put out for you because we're so kind and caring right now. Rather than using Zoom for us, we're going to be interviewing people on Zoom. And today we have Danny Byrne, who is the head coach of the Manchester Giants, joining us today. Thanks for joining us, Danny. How are you feeling?
I'm okay, thank you. Thanks for having me. BBL.
So, are you excited by the attacking prospects that you've got in your team? Because you say that you were missing the American guys, and obviously we do know basketball is massive in America, but we're trying to bring it over to Britain at the moment. Are you excited by the attacking play that your team showed? Because I mean, high scoring. Plenty of threes and some good play as well. So I'm sure you'll be looking forward to seeing what you can do with the team this season.
Yeah, obviously we're playing this Thursday again. The return of Chester are coming to us, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see what we're going to be like with the Americans, including with the rest of the guys. I haven't had the opportunity to see the whole team play as a team yet because of COVID and not really having a pre-season as such. So it's going to be very, very interesting on what this team is going to be capable of throughout the rest of the season, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned, of course, the second fixture against the Cheshire Phoenix on Thursday, and obviously this episode is going to be released after the second game. So, based off your last performance, what exactly did you learn about Phoenix themselves, about yourself? How do you think you're going to adapt to the second game? Is there anything you want to do differently?
No, we just approach each game as it comes. Obviously, we scout the opposition. We also self-scout ourselves and what the opposition how they might play against us. I'm expecting a kind of similar kind of game kind of style against Chester again. So I think we're quite prepared. We'll go back and look at some of the video from Cheshire's game against Glasgow, but they were without their Americans due to COVID isolation. So it's a bit of a tricky one, really. So it's more of a case of kind of concentrating on ourselves more than anything, and making sure that we get what we do right, rather than worrying about what Cheshire are going to do on Thursday.
Yeah, and in terms of the first game then, obviously you said that you haven't really had the time to see the team play as a team, but were there any individuals specifically that really impressed you during the first game of the season?
Yeah, I felt one of our youngsters, Zach Powell, who was with me last season, played probably more minutes in the BBL than anyone else did under 20 last season. So he had more of a starring role, I guess, against Cheshire, and it was good to see how much he had learnt the previous season, and kind of you could see him putting it into place a little bit against Cheshire last week. Also, some of the youngsters that we brought in, who one was at my school, or two were at my school, and then one was at Charlwood Academy. It was good to see them get on the floor, and they certainly didn't look out of place playing in the BBL game as well, which certainly is going to stand us in good stead as the longer this season goes on. When we start getting injuries and a few knocks, those guys are going to be very, very valuable to us in the long run.
And you mentioned obviously that he's one of your youngsters. Is there a particular focus on bringing through young players? Is that sort of the main focus for you as a club to help promote British basketball?
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure there's a pathway there. In the past, there's not really been much of a pathway to bring British youngsters through into professional basketball, especially with Manchester Giants. So, we've got a few things going on in the background. Hopefully we can, in a couple of years, we'll see the fruition of that come through. At the minute, we've just got a few guys that are based in the northwest that are not really Manchester based, but obviously the future will be great to produce some legit Manchester youngsters coming through and then playing real BBL minutes. And that would certainly be, a feather in the cap for us if we can get to that point.
Yeah, certainly. So, right, we're going to rotate around the table then in terms of questions. So we're going to move on to Matt now, who's going to ask you another couple of ones.
Yeah, so obviously recently we've seen online your new identity that you've launched, the new kits, the new branding. What was the inspiration for this, and how does this sort of identity connect with the people of Manchester?
The inspiration for it was really with the new owner coming in, Jamie Edwards. He wanted a clean sweep, a clean slate, and it was time to create a new identity and a new culture more than anything. In terms of the design of the logo, etc., and the cross at the top, it kind of the cross represents the Roman numerals 10, which represents the 10 boroughs of Manchester. Our plan is obviously, COVID permitting, to get one of our professional players in each of the 10 boroughs to become a bit of an ambassador, be a focal point of our team through primary schools, secondary schools, community clubs, and try and build that community feeling of being part of Manchester Giants, and then also that kind of creates that pathway to getting youngsters involved in basketball who could potentially in years to come become the next Manchester Giants professional.
Yeah. As we've already mentioned, the team looks different this season. You've only kept 3 players from last year's squad. What was the thinking behind that?
Obviously, getting rid of some of the players from last season was one of the toughest decisions I've had to make, not only in my short professional basketball career, but obviously in my life, really, at the minute. Some of those guys have been with the club for a long, long time. But you kind of, when you peel back the layers, it's, where were we going and were we actually doing anything? And it was kind of like, if you're always going to do the same thing, you're always going to get the same thing. So we decided to make that change of can we go younger and can we bring in more younger Northwest-based players to help us get on that road to bring the juniors through. And then obviously we were allowed to bring 4 Americans in this year, which has changed from last year. So we went for younger guys in that sense as well. And that's kind of allowed the new logo, new identity, and the new coach to kind of follow behind that as well. I just personally decided that, I need a younger squad, a more energetic squad. It's not about can we win everything this season, it's about building for the future. We want to have a good solid season this season, and then can we keep the team and build on it for the season after, and then just keep building, and then can we bring Manchester Giants back to being a powerhouse in the Northwest of what it used to be.
Yeah, so you touched on it a bit there. I was going to ask you, my next question was going to be what your expectations are in the long run with this new look team. But as you've said, it's to build, is it?
It's the build. Yeah, it's the build. We've recruited a very, very good team this year. A very, very exciting team. As long as we get the balance and the chemistry right with these guys, I think we'll do very, very well. There's certainly we'll hope to win more games than we lose. Playoffs is definitely the main aim, which is what we all say every season. But I really do believe that we can make the playoffs this season. And then, if we make the playoffs this season, then next season we've got to look to take it another step up. If we finish 8th this year, can we finish 6th next year or 4th? Can we get a good cup run? Can we get a good trophy run? Those are the little things that you start to build. But we need stability within the team, and to keep a core group of this team moving forward. You're going to need some good editing skills there.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I think we'll be. I think we'll be okay with the maybe with the editing.
Hopefully.
Well, thanks for joining us. Best of luck for the rest of the
Thank you.
season. I'll be sure to follow the team, and best of luck. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you later.
And if you'd like to see the full extended interview with Danny Byrne and that question from Matt, then be sure to check out the Live at the Quays channel for that interview. Now, gents, let's talk Lewis Hamilton. Rio Ferdinand has said he's one of the greatest sports players this country has produced. What do we think?
All he does is drive a car.
And that is an argument that some people would say.
That's a genuine argument. That's the thing. That's a genuine argument people have said.
You've got to look at it though in terms of he is the best person at that sport ever. He's, some of his stats is seven world championships over the 13 or so years he's been driving. So that's like he's winning more than 50% of the championships he's sort of been in.
Yeah.
He's got more wins than Schumacher, more pole positions by like 30 than Schumacher. He's won like 35% of the races that he's been in. His stats are phenomenal, and he is the greatest Formula 1 driver of all time. And to have the career length that he has and being as successful, winning his first World Championship in I think it's 2007, 2008, up until winning 2020, that 13-year career of being at the top of his game, I mean, it's something that can only be commended, really. Yeah,
I think he's one of those sports people that sort of transcends the sport that they, play within, a bit like Michael Jordan, Messi, Ronaldo, maybe even Andy Murray. Everyone knows who he is. Nadal, Federer. We talk about these names, but these are people that everyone knows.
Names,
everyone knows. So you don't have to watch Formula 1 to know who Lewis Hamilton is. Look, I would like to clarify. I'm not dismissing what he's doing because he drives a car. Right? That was just genuinely some of the Twitter comments that I'd seen underneath what he had done, and it was just like, well, if you look at the amount of buttons they have on their steering wheel, that alone, deserves a knighthood. I would not be able to race at that speed and know what to press and everything. It's a very, very challenging sport. You have to be very physically built for it because of how quick you go.
Yeah. There's far more to it than I think people think.
People think it's just like having a leisurely stroll, but you've got to be so mentally focused for a race is about 2 hours, an hour and a half. And the amount of split-second decisions they're having to make, adjust at the same time, you're using all parts of your body, and it's so physically, you're like fighting with the car the whole way. I mean, you hear some of the audio recordings of them, and they're like out of breath and they're like exhausted, and you know, they drop like kilograms of sweat per race because it's so hard and it's so hot.
Well, it's the G-force that does it. Is it G-force?
Well, the G-force is like strains on them, so like you've got to have a really, really strong neck. And we've seen this season with the likes of Nico Hulkenberg, who's come in to take, I think it was it Lance Stroll's seat when he was out with coronavirus.
I have no idea.
He came in just to race for one race to take up the seat of another driver. He couldn't, and because he hadn't been, you know, as active as he should have been, and you know, wasn't doing the full-time training, he was, by the second day, like his neck was strained and he was having a lot of issues with it. So yeah, it's a really physical sport that I think people just don't really realise sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could oversimplify any sport, really. You know, football, you just kick a ball into a net. Tennis, you just hitting a ball with some, you know, with a string and racket. Do you know what I mean?
When you talk about any sport
anything,
like that, it sounds so simple, but you know, there's a lot more that goes on with it. You know, football, you're just kicking a ball, but we all know there's a lot more, you know, the physical aspect of it, the accuracy and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, and of course, and he's been using, obviously, he's spoke a lot about Black Lives Matter as well,
Yeah,
which is, he's used his platform in the right way. Some would say that he's been more divisive. I've seen, again, on Twitter, which is probably not the best place to get opinions, but I've seen a lot of people saying that he's been more divisive than actually, you know, bringing people together. I haven't really gone into too much detail about his comments.
There's a lot of criticism that people have for him, and I think it's one of those things where he's someone who speaks quite openly about certain things, but he also doesn't publicise some of the other things that he does. So a lot of people criticise him when he talks about the planet, and you know, you go, oh, you drive a car, that's completely like hypocritical.
Yeah.
You know, he used to have a private jet. People criticise that when he says, you know, we need to be better for the planet, whereas in reality, you know, he flies in, you know, where he can, but as well, when he does fly, he is completely carbon neutral through his donations that he's made to other things. So he is completely carbon offsets his year in terms of planting enough trees and enough projects that are going to take that carbon out of the atmosphere, which is something that not a lot of people know about, but, you know,
it goes under the radar, doesn't it?
It goes under the radar with some of the things that, you know, and as well, like the likes of his team, you know, he employs certain people to do things from certain backgrounds and like areas that are perhaps, you know, like areas that are underrepresented in motorsport as well. And, you know, he's been a big advocate for things like this. So yeah, I think some of the things that he does off the track and kind of people do criticise him for, but I think they don't know the full story. And I would recommend that there is good articles that you can find out there. So definitely do some, if you think he is a bit of a just
do research.
Just don't rate him. Do a little bit of research, and you'll find out that realistically behind the man he's doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and I think he certainly deserves. And there's a lot of people talking about him for a knighthood. I think it's certainly
you
deserves it, doesn't
it? They have one good year, they win 2 Olympic medals, and they're a knight. Do you know,
yeah, Gareth Southgate gets an MBE for beating Panama.
He's,
you know,
he's been there for 13, 14 years now, and he's still going.
Yeah. Right, well, I think that covers it pretty well. Thank you for joining us, Matt and Sam. And thank you for everyone at home, if there are any that are going to watch this. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We are going to be hitting it hard with the content this year. We're going to be levelling up. So best believe that things are going to be improving, and we won't be asking basketball coaches about their football careers. So yeah, enjoy. Look forward to that one. But thank you for joining us. Take care as always. Look after yourselves over the Christmas break, and we hope to see you in the next episode.